Welcome back to GA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. This is the Football Review Show, and I'm delighted to be joined here by John McMahon of the JMac Podcast. Before we get straight into the podcast, just want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Declan Kirby, GA Star. Follow the trials and tribulations of Declan Kirby and his team at Smith Green Gaelic Football Club. The book is available in Eason's, Lidl and all good bookshops, so check it out in the description down below. John McMahon, how's things?
Yeah, good, my man. Good. Disappointment of Saturday with Cavan, but we could thank the Italians, and it's coming home, Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely. Were you one of the ones that was celebrating through the night, going on, like having a good time?
No, unfortunately, there was a bit of a party on Saturday, so I think we were a bit worse aware. A few beers watching the game, but no, after the game, I think it was sleepy time after that.
100%, yeah. No, like it was. I mean, look, listen. I think we were all a bit relieved to see the Italians get over the line. I mean, because especially England looked like they were going to win it in the early stages. But I suppose one thing I did want to ask you is, obviously we've seen penalties decide the Euros, and obviously this year, if there's games that finish level, like they'll end up being penalty shootouts, like in both football and hurling. And I wanted to get your opinion. Like, I mean, it'd be weird to see an All-Ireland final decided in that same way, because it's such a, I don't know, like it's such a thin margin between success and failure.
Yeah, like that's exactly it. Like, and look, like the whole country, was back in England last night, and it's just such a cruel fate to go out on penalties, because, like, I think we did bring that into the GA. Teams can play so well; it can be enough such an anti-climax. Lads were saying last night, it's just absolute potluck in penalties. So it's a strange dynamic. Like, you can be on top in a game, and the ball won't go back in the net for you, and you just mess up, and then bye in penalties. So it's a cruel fate. But then, I think it has been trialled in the GA. Some teams have suffered the cruel fate of getting knocked out in penalties, but I just think I'd probably leave the penalties to soccer lads, because I think there's enough kind of messing going on with the rules in GA at the minute.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and I think as well with replays, like I think we've seen down the years as well with different replays that, different games, different styles and all the rest. Like, and I think it's what makes it entertaining. And if Donegal and Derry, for example, did finich level and go into a replay, it would have been interesting to see how potentially the different teams, both Donegal and Derry would have been going up against each other in another, game of football. But I suppose we will start off by discussing that game. Like, it was Donegal 16 points, Derry 15 points. I suppose a cracking game of football, and I think like I don't know if you were the same as myself, but just relief that finally we got a good championship game at long last.
Delighted, absolutely delighted now, because I think that Leitrim and Mayo game, as we'll go on now to discuss in a couple of minutes, was a very, very tough watch, and it was just brilliant to see a competitive game of football. Two teams going at it. No easy goal chances. Every point so hardly worked for, and that bit of class from Paddy McBrearty at the end, absolutely supreme talent, and it was brilliant. But just, we really need to kind of see more of that, and like, it just goes to show, when even teams are matched, we're going to look at a more exciting championship. And I know the league can be competitive, but we need more games like that in the championship. It was a terrific game of football. I'd say Rory Gallagher's voice is just in bits this morning today. I've never seen a man shout as much along the sideline, but he's terrific knowledge of the game, and he can take great credit from that. There's something big building in Derry that definitely, I know it'll be sick today. I know it'll be sick after the game. There's huge credit they can take from that performance. Donegal, they have a lot to work on for Tyrone next week. Obviously, Tyrone beating us on Saturday. Tyrone still look like they need a bit of work to do, so that's going to be an intriguing game. Both counties have a lot of work to do to get up to the likes of yourselves and the Kerrys of this world, so that'll be an intriguing game this weekend. But just a fantastic game. Derry, probably, maybe the tank went at the end of the minute, and like, I was listening to Paddy Andrews this morning off the ball, and he was just saying Christy McCaig lost Paddy McBrearty for the first time in the game. McBrearty gets the win and score at the end. So that's a true credit to Christy McCaig for, holding probably one of the best marksmen in the country quiet for the whole game. It was just a tremendous score at the end. But you definitely feel sorry for Derry, because they had a fantastic year. But I really do think there's something building there. It's a very exciting project for Rory Gallagher, and Derry aren't going away.
Yeah, no, like fair play to them, like, because especially going up against a team that, I know obviously yourselves won the Ulster Championship last year, but generally over the past 3 or 4 years, like, you'd have to say that Derry are probably, or Donegal have probably been the most consistent team in the Ulster Championship, in terms of winning. Obviously 2 years on the trot, they're always kind of thereabouts, even when it comes to the All-Ireland series as well. So, like, fair play to Derry. They went toe-to-toe with them, like, matched them in almost every area of the field. Chrissy McCaig, like what you said, like kept probably one of the best forwards in the country almost scoreless going up into the final few minutes. But like what we said earlier, it's a thin line and there's thin margins at different times, especially in this year's championship. And I mean, McBrearty in the end just pulling away, getting that score at the end. I mean, that was something else altogether.
Absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible. I was saying to the folks who was watching the game with yesterday, that's the sign of a good player. Can maybe go missing the whole game and he just scores an absolutely tremendous point at the end. It was probably one of the scores of the championship, if not probably going to be the score of the championship. If someone will do well, especially last minute of a game, Ulster Championship. How far out was he? And he swung that left boot and it was just absolutely outrageous. But Derry's game plan was very, very good. They stuck to it. As I keep saying, Rory hasn't played them some nice football. In fairness, it wasn't overly defensive. They literally just got their matchups right. It was very good to watch. They worked hard for each other. Their strength and depth. It was just so good. And I keep saying it, they're not gone away. They can take great solace from that performance. And but again, a very exciting finish. And Paddy McBrearty can really be a happy man this week. It'll be interesting to see what way Michael Murphy's fixed now for the Tyrone game. They will definitely need Michael Murphy for that game. Fair enough, maybe not against Derry. Fair enough, maybe not the first day, but Tyrone, they will leave Michael Murphy fit. So even when Michael Murphy came on yesterday, a great lift. Like I heard, it was Ashley Riley was saying to one of the supporters, on News Talk, like he didn't do a whole pile, but he done the small things right. Like you heard the roar of the crowd when he came on. The Derry boys were shouldering him, let him know they were there, and just it was a great Ulster derby, and long may it continue, and hopefully this weekend will be more the same.
Yeah, 100%. Like definitely do need Michael Murphy, all right. Like, and I think it was probably the right way to do it, as opposed to what they done in the Down game where they started him and then he kind of pulled his hamstring again. Where do you think Donegal can crack on now? Like, obviously coming up against Tyrone next, and then either Armagh or Monaghan. I mean, is this the year where they can finally, I suppose, get past Ulster and get to a All Ireland semi-final and then be competitive from there?
Well, yeah, it'll just be so interesting now because there's so much talk about Donegal being in the top 4, top 5. Now is the time to see what they're like, because I think yesterday was a massive, massive test for them. They knew Derry were going to perform like that, and look what happened. They performed like that. So I think yesterday was a huge test. They got over that test yesterday, just about. McBrearty bit of class at the end. This weekend, we'll see what way Donegal are fixed. Fair enough, that blip against us last year, but now this is the year for Donegal to really show. There is big pressure on Declan Bonner. Let's not get away from that fact that Michael Murphy, them Hughes, McBrearty, they'll need to be absolutely firing this weekend. And it will be interesting to see, can they make that step up? Tyrone will be mad to upset the odds. I'm presuming it's probably even money each way for these two teams. But Tyrone, I suppose we'll get on to our game now in a couple of minutes. But Tyrone, they're only, we were very bad Saturday, but that wasn't the Tyrone of old kind of performance. Stop-start at times, and I know Dazzler McCurry was absolutely fantastic. But it's an intriguing game, and it'll just be very interesting to see can Donegal make that next step, because yes, it was a huge test, and it's going to be the big second test this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose for Derry, I mean, not having the qualifiers as well, such a shame for them, because they were so competitive throughout the entirety of the game. And I was even saying in one of my live streams after the game, I wonder where Derry are at. Are they in, the top 10 in the country even? Because I think a lot of people probably even had Donegal in the top 4 or top 3, in terms of the best teams in the country. And unfortunately, we're not gonna find out if Derry could have got to an All-Ireland quarter-final, or at least, a final round of the qualifiers or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. But I'm saying it, this is not the end of this Derry team. They should take absolutely fantastic credit from that game yesterday. They should take great credit from the league campaign that they had. This is not the end of the road for this Derry team. Shane McGuigan is an absolutely fantastic player. Conor Glass can potentially be one of the best midfielders in the country when he gets going. So this is not the end. This is only the start. I'm presuming Rory Gallagher is going to be there for a couple of years. He'd be the right man to take them forward. He has a good game plan. There's word on the street that he could have been the key behind Donegal's All-Ireland success in 2012 with Jim McGuinness. So no, this is only the start for this Derry team. As you say, if there was a back door, how far would they go? All on a quarter-final potentially. Have a run through the back door, which is a pity for a lot of teams. But yeah, it's a very, very exciting time to be involved in Derry football, because I don't know if you've seen a couple of pictures of the minor lads. The minor lads, they must just be eating bricks or something for breakfast. The absolute size of them. So they're crazy, crazy strong. And Rory has a very, very exciting project in his hands if he can keep them boys motivated.
Yeah, no, it's definitely good times at the moment for Derry, like up and coming at the moment, especially coming through at minor level, and be interesting to see how they get on in the minor All-Ireland final as well. Like, and I suppose moving on from that, obviously Tyrone and Cavan, Tyrone 118, Cavan 13 points. I suppose what were your thoughts as a Cavan man yourself? I mean, in some ways, like I feel like this game kind of just went the way that everyone kind of expected, really.
Yeah. Look, unfortunately, it's probably more just hope than expectation going into that game, and I think it just was. I think I was saying to a couple of books, today, like it was just a very bad way to go out of the championship. No fight. I think first 20, 25 minutes, we showed a bit of fight. It was a bit of a draw game, but look, Cork Faulkner, he's an all-star, and he just was really miles away from Darren McCurry, unfortunately. And we had no one to really stop Darren McCurry. It was just very disappointing. And I think it was just a very bad way to go out of the championship. And I think, as Cork Faulkner rightly said a couple of weeks ago, it's probably Cavan's worst year for worst year in God knows how long. Relegation to Division 4, straight knockout in the championship, and then that's us now till next January, February. So a very, very poor performance. I don't really know where we go from there because, Division 4 next year, you'll be playing very low standard teams, championship again next year. So realistically, it's going to be tough station now for Cavan football. And it's the age-old problem. I've said this to you numerous times, the lack of forwards, just no real quality up front, and just, some of the big names not performing again, the likes of Grove McKernan. I know like there's pressure on him every time he goes out, but he really needs to be stepping up, and unfortunately he didn't. Marty Riley looks like he's ran his last race for Cavan. I'd be amazed if he stays put. Ray Galligan tried his heart out to no avail, and just Tyrone knife through us. They could have bet us by more points, and it was just a very, very disappointing performance. Any shots we did take dropped short. Oisin Kernan unfortunately kicked about 3 awful wides in the second half, and just it was Aaron. Look, and this is being brutally honest. Look, if it was a boxing match, it would have been called off after round 1. No fight, and I know we've injuries. Colin Brady, I know he's gone with his cruise ship, but he looked. If he was fit, he could have led the charge. With just no leaders, no example, and just a very bad performance, Aaron.
Yeah, I suppose Cavan did a McGregor on it then, I think, by the sounds of it, getting finished in the first round. But yeah, like where do you think it's ultimately gone wrong, I suppose, for Cavan in the entirety of 2021? Like, it's a hard one to kind of put my finger on it. Like, obviously you were never probably ever, well, not that you were never ever, but like it was always going to be a monumental task to reach the same heights as to what you did last year. But I suppose going down to Division 4 and obviously the Wicklow loss as well, like it just, I don't know, it just hasn't really gone in any way according to plan, I suppose.
No, like it definitely hasn't. Like, and you're looking for a bit of a fight back after last year, and a bit of going from strength to strength. And unfortunately, that just did not happen. And like it's probably just been a culture thing within Cavan over the years. Like, we win an Ulster title and maybe just goes to our heads and think, okay, Jesus, we're going to conquer the world. Unfortunately, that's never going to be the case. Like, we need, I think in Cavan, we just need a mentality shift in terms of kind of getting the basis right. And pushing on and trying to compete at Ulster titles again. This year was just disastrous, and you can't get relegated to Division 4. Like, Wicklow beating you, and then obviously going out in a whimper against Tyrone Saturday night. Just very, very bad stuff. And there's like, you say back to the drawing board, you say this, you say that. It's just not good enough, and that's plain to be seen. And I just think it comes down to hard work and just sticking to a thing as well, because I really do think we thought we were world beaters probably after winning the Ulster title last year, and I know Dublin bet us in the semi-final and stuff, but you need to be following up on these things. You need to be developing, and unfortunately it just looked like we hit pause after that Dublin game, and we just did not push on. Like, I know it was a long season, but we are Division 2 a team, really. If we did put our arse in gear, we're Division 4 now for next year, and there's just a lot of work to be done again for Cavan. Sustainability is huge. Over the Cavan over the years, we just haven't been able to deliver that. And Aaron, I've said this to you 1,000 times. It's a football mad county, and unfortunately, the team just has not done us proud this year. And Saturday night just really summed up probably where the team's at. We need probably a bit of a clear out players. We need a bit of an influx, and there's just in Cavan over the years, you have a lot of lads stepping away and quitting, but I think some of them lads need to be rang again and need to pick up the phone. We need to incentivise them back, because it's just not looking good. And Mickey Graham, there's not much word from the camp at the minute. What about his future? What's going to happen there? Maybe he's going to do another year. Who knows? But it's just unfortunate after last year, and it's hard to know where you'd really go from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose he has bought his time by obviously what he achieved last year, and obviously with Mullinachta in the past. So he probably has bought another year. But going into Division 4 next year as well, with the likes of Tipperary and Wexford have kind of had a good end to their league campaign, to be fair. So, I mean, there's no given that you get out of Division 4 as well. It's going to be a tough route back.
Yeah, 100%, and it's just that's what I mean. Division 3, oh yeah, God, we'll attack these years, and we'll just go straight back up. It's a mentality shift that probably will need to be changed fairly swiftly from these Cavan boys. If we're going to go in next year and think, oh yeah, Jesus, we're going to go straight back up, we will need to take every game so seriously, because I think this year, I know we talked a lot about it, but we'll win all these 3 games. Look what happened. We bet Longford out of the 3 of them. So that simply wasn't good enough. And Wicklow beats us in the relegation playoff. So I just think it's back. It's a reality check for the Cavan lads. It's a big, big reality check. I think they really need to kind of knuckle down, work hard. Some of the boys need to put in a big championship to maybe stake a claim for next year. And there's a lot of hard work to be done. But I know you were saying there, okay, fair enough, last year's success for Mickey Graham, but at the end of the day, it's a result-based business. Football's constantly transforming. You need to keep people happy at the top table. It'll be very interesting to see what the crack is this week, because Cavan sometimes don't mess about with maybe replacing managers, changing managers. So obviously nothing yet from the Cavan camp. I know maybe there's other counties probably in a similar position to us, maybe getting rid of managers and stuff, but it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks regarding Cavan GAA. The championship's rocking up now in September, so that'll come around fairly quick. So, but just Tyrone, we're just even a word in Tyrone, where maybe we'll touch them in a second or two, but they were very good. Dazza McCurry was absolutely fantastic, and full credit for the victory. They were in second gear all game, aren't really.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. And even like you said with Darren McCurry, and you've got Cathal McShane coming off the bench. I don't know what the story was with Conor McKenna, whether it was an injury or whether he was just dropped. But I suppose with Cathal McShane coming back into the fold, if they can, it might be too soon for them this year, especially with some players coming back and some new lads coming into the team, new managers. But I suppose at some point we're all kind of looking at Tyrone and we're thinking, is it going to click for them? And the Donegal game is probably the best opportunity for them to do so, because Donegal have had a great record over them in the past couple of years. But if Tyrone were to turn them over, I think then people would start looking at Tyrone as, okay, maybe this is a team that, all right, they might not win the All-Ireland this year, but they're definitely on the right track.
Yeah, they are on the right track. Look, I suppose winning that game Saturday was probably just getting over a bit of a bump in the road, and look, they did it and successfully did it. But again, this weekend is vitally important for Tyrone, because I know it's Fergal Logan and Brian Dewar's first year, but maybe it is a year too soon. Is McShane fully fit? I know he came on Saturday. It'll be interesting to see his development this year. Conor McKenna, no sign of him Saturday, so maybe are they holding them down holding them maybe quiet down for the line. But I think they have an absolute star in Darren McCurry. It's absolutely crazy to think he wasn't really part of Mickey Hart's plans over the years. Darren McCurry can turn any defence on the sixpence. He's a supremely good footballer. You still have Petey Hart going strong, flying. Niall Morgan, fantastic between the sticks. So they have a lot potential there. But I just wonder, is it a year too soon maybe for this, maybe Ulster Championship or All Ireland? It will be interesting this weekend. Do Donegal have more in the tank than them for this weekend? I keep saying it, maybe if Michael Murphy's fit, will that be massive for Donegal to get over the line against Tyrone? But I just think it's probably a project for Brian Dewar and Fergal Logan. Is the year too soon, as you were saying? Who knows? But Tyrone, they can be a funny team. They could come out this weekend, maybe get over the line, but it'll be an absolutely intriguing game. But it will be very interesting. Even for Derek Canavan, Peter Canavan's son there, he's still knocking around too. So it'll be very interesting to see where Tyrone go, I suppose. But one thing I said as well, maybe discipline too, because Tyrone had the game won and Ronnie McNamee goes off with a red card. The challenge probably looks soft, but at the end of the day, you can't be hit any face contact. You're gone, and that's it. So discipline, maybe for Tyrone, maybe in the next couple of weeks to work on. I'm presuming that's Ronnie McNamee out for the Donegal game. I think so. Yeah, I think it's game suspension. I think that's a huge loss. It'll be interesting to see who replaced him for the Donegal game. But look, it'll be an exciting game. But I think that game against Cavan, I just don't think it was that good a preparation because we're low on confidence. I think if Tyrone were playing maybe Derry or Armagh on Saturday and the Donegal this weekend, I think that would have been better preparation because at the minute, I think Cavan could be playing some Division 4 team where we probably struggle at the minute,
Yeah, like, and I suppose like because it was a level mainly like for the entirety of the first half, it just seemed to be the second half and the final kind of 15 minutes that Tyrone kind of pulled away. And just getting back to a comment there from Mushy and Kerr there from earlier, he said McBrearty was shocking except his last minute point. Like I wouldn't really say he was shocking now. I think Chrissy McKay just done a fantastic job on him, but I suppose that probably tells a bit of a story for Tyrone, like the fact that they had Michael Murphy injured. Paddy McBrearty obviously, wasn't in the game as much as he has been in the previous games, and yet they still come through. Like for Tyrone, even if they do take McBrearty out of the game, and even if Murphy is injured, you then have Michael Langan who's popping up all over the place. So like Donegal just have so many options, and it's going to be hard for that Tyrone defence, even without Ronan McNamee now as well, to try and nullify them.
Yeah, like that's an interesting comment. Like in fairness, McBrearty was very quiet, but I really do think we have to give. And I think was it Paddy Andrews was saying, I think it was an exceptional performance for Chrissy McKay, and he should take full credit for that performance he had against Paddy McBrearty because he was brilliant. He completely nullified Paddy McBrearty's impact in that game, and he was fantastic. But as I said at the start of the show, Paddy McBrearty, that is a sign of a class player when you could come up last minute, last dying embers of game and kick the winner. That's the sign of a class player. But he was quiet. Is that a worry for Donegal going forward? I'm not so sure. Chris McKaig's one of the best man markers in the country. As you say, if the likes of Ronan McNamee and some of these boys are missing for this Sunday, I think McBrearty could have a lot of joy. So I really do think Chris McKaig deserves huge credit for the job he done on Paddy McBrearty on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. No, he definitely does. Like, in fairness, like for Paddy McBrearty, it wasn't even a chance. It was like a half a chance, and he just ended up hitting it from 30, 40 meters or however far out it was. I suppose for Tyrone, like the main thing for them is getting Colin McShane back in the team as well, because you've seen even when he came on, he didn't look like he didn't have that same match sharpness, to be fair, but he still hit 1 or 2 points and he was still causing problems. Like, and he's a player that's probably like he's a vital part of that jigsaw of that Tyrone team if they are going to go on and win an Ulster title this year.
He definitely is. And look, Colin McShane is worth about 5 or 6 points to Tyrone every day he goes out, without a shadow of a doubt. He always gets on ball, he wins ball, he's a fantastic man to have inside. So he's a huge addition to that Tyrone team, and like that Tyrone full forward line. I would like to be Brian Dooher or Fergal Logan picnic because they have some absolutely world class players playing for them. So it'll be very interesting to see what his impact will be for the rest of the year. Will he be brought on as a sub? Will he get the number 14 jersey? It will be very interesting to see. Will it be Darren McCurry, Colin McShane, Conor McKenna up top? If it is, that's a frighteningly good full forward line. But yeah, you seen Saturday, he came on. It's nearly like Michael Murphy for Donegal yesterday. He came on. It was a huge lift. He made light work of our defence. Well, Jesus, Stevie Wonder could probably make light work of our defence at the minute. But he's a great addition, and he's obviously done a lot of work on himself because he was injured for a long time, and I'd say Colin was working very hard. And fair play to him coming back onto the pitch as well and being in the shape that he was. Like for a player that has been out for over a year, to come back and being as involved in the game as he was, I think he deserves a fair amount of credit for it. Who would you have from here to win the Ulster Championship then? Would you still have Donegal at this moment in time as maybe the favourites, or do you think Tyrone can even potentially cause an upset? Armagh are obviously in there, Monaghan are in there. Like whoever does win it, it's going to be very close from here. Oh no, it definitely will. It definitely will. And I think as someone was saying there a couple of weeks ago, it's probably the hardest Ulster Championship to call in years because, even if I was looking at the odds, there's Tyrone at 2-1, that was a couple of weeks ago. So it's a very, very hard championship to call this year. You have Monaghan there. Monaghan look very good at the minute. Banty has them moving well. They look like they've good plan in place going forward for the year ahead. Armagh looking good. I know the only bet Antrim, but still the O'Neill brothers, Stephen Campbell, them boys get caught serious wreck on any given day. So it's a very open championship this year. But I think someone was saying earlier on, the winners this weekend probably will win it out. But don't write off Armagh and Monaghan because there's a lot of talk about them this year. They do look good. Can they back it up? Will be interesting. Obviously, that Monaghan dynamic with Conor McMahon, is he fit? He went off for crutches against Fermanagh, so it will be very interesting to see. But it's a very hard championship to call this year. But if you're a booking man or a betting man, you'll probably be looking at Donegal, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, Donegal are the season team, aren't they? Like, they're the team that's done it twice in the past 3 years. And I suppose for Armagh, they haven't won it since, 2008. And for Monaghan, it's been quite a couple of years as well. Like, so, I mean, Donegal are definitely the season team, and they'd be the team to put the money on. But so I have a sneaky feeling with Armagh. I don't know what it is with Donegal. I feel like they're going to get caught somewhere along the way. Like, I don't know, like even in the Derry game at different times, like in fairness, they showed a lot of resolve to kind of come through the gutter the way they did, but I just have a sneaky feeling that they might just get caught somewhere.
Yeah, but it's funny though, because I obviously when you're watching games on, but there's something just about this Donegal thing in terms of them being in top 4, top 5. I'm just not sure about it, because I know Michael Murphy's a huge addition to them, and he's the leader, he's the marksman for them, but I just don't get this talk of them being top 4 or 5 at the minute, because they have a lot of work to do to get up to that kind of top level of teams, because they only got over the line against Derry. I know Derry are flying at the minute, but if we're talking about Donegal being potential challengers for Dublin, they have to be putting in a bigger performance than that. There's no doubt about that. But they could be caught. Is it going to be Sunday against Tyrone? Is it going to be maybe an Ulster final against Monaghan and Armagh? Who knows? 3 very good teams left in the Ulster Championship potentially to play against. So it's going to be a very tight championship to call. It does just depend on Mr. Murphy being fit. He's absolutely huge to that team. I know it just it can't just be based around one player, but Donegal do look very ordinary without Mr. Murphy. I know Paddy McBrearty's up there, but look, McCaig did nullify his threat at big time yesterday, and they just don't look like they've any kind of other scoring forwards other than McBrearty and Murphy at the minute, unfortunately.
Yeah, because even with Murphy, it's that defensive output that he puts into the team as well. Like, there was even one stage where he came off the bench and I think it was the Shane McGuigan chance where he put it wide, and Murphy didn't get a block on, but you could see him being back there, like just kind of making a bit of a nuisance for the Derry forwards. Like, it's not just his forward play that he gives you, but it's that defensive output as well. Like, and if he starts, or he's back fully fit, like Donegal would surely be thereabouts.
Oh yeah, that's exactly it. Like, and I seen a tweet someone saying about Conor McManus, like one and not having Conor McManus is like a car not having an engine. It's absolutely essential. So I think Murphy is badly needed. Like, him coming on yesterday, it was just like, I don't know what it was like. It was just like a standing ovation for him, because Donegal needed him. Declan Bonner needed to bring him on, because the game was in the melting pot. He settled things down. He got on ball. He just done the smart things well, and he's absolutely pivotal to any team. He's the Conor McManus from Monaghan. These kind of guys. It'll just be interesting to see what way the other team's going to be fixed as well. So you have the likes of Tyrone there, Darren McCurry. Let's say McCurry got injured. Could Colin McShane step in? Is he fit enough to play? How's Conor McKenna fixed? Derek Canavan, is it too soon for him maybe to be producing at the top table? You have Armagh there, you have the O'Neills, the Campbells. So it's a very interesting Ulster Championship this year, and it's going to be very exciting the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, no, definitely is going to be very interesting. All right, and I suppose Kerry and Cork, obviously they both came through their 2 games in the Munster Senior Football Championship. We'll touch on the Kerry game first. It was 118 to 1-8. I suppose routine for Kerry. I mean, their forwards probably weren't as explosive as what they were in the Clare game or in some of the league games, but I suppose they didn't need to be. Like, they didn't need to kind of use up all their energy, and this was always about game management and kind of trying to see their way through and eventually onto what will now be Cork.
Definitely. And I suppose when you reflect on it too, it's Tipperary going out in the whimper again. I know they were not in any way near probably going to be beating Kerry, but that's Tipperary gone now as well, and obviously facing into Division 4 next year, and big disappointment for them. But look, as you were saying, routine performance for Kerry. David Clifford just scoring a worldly of a goal in the first half, and just on the went and just pushed on. Paddy Clifford, a great game too. So standard performance. I don't know if there's a whole lot of analysis in it really compared to the Ulster games. It's probably a poor game. Tipperary what do you really say? It's just probably like ourselves, big shock this year, very bad. They should have been putting more emphasis in the league this year because they probably knew they had the likes of Cork or Kerry coming into the championship. And just like ourselves, without a whimper, very bad. And unfortunately, Tipperary back to drawing board for themselves. They'll be very disappointed to be faced into Division 4 next year for like ourselves. But it just goes to show you need to be taking the league seriously. I think for some of these teams, they're not. And I think ourselves definitely need to be kind of looking at that direction. But Kerry, on the go, march on. It's probably an All-Ireland final they're looking at this year. So routine performance and on the go.
Yeah, no, like fair play to them. Like, and yeah, like what you said, I think with the Tip Kerry game and the Cork game and even the Mayo Leitrim game, we're probably clutching at straws to find things to actually speak about. But I suppose with David Clifford, like it probably shows his quality and how highly he's rated in Gaelic football, because he had a quite enough game by all his accounts, and he gets that chance and absolutely buries a like really well taken goal. Like that just goes to show the quality that the Kerry do have, even when they're bringing players off the bench, and Sean O'Shea's hitting like 9 points. So much quality all around the pitch, and David Clifford, I mean, what a footballer.
Yeah, absolutely. And like if you actually look when David Clifford was taking that strike on, he just had eye for goal, and it was just brilliant to see. I think there's a lot of full forwards around Ireland at the minute that's nearly afraid to shoot, to just go and pass over the bar. I know Tipperary's defence isn't fantastic, but Clifford just had that eye for goal, and he nearly took the net with him, nearly broke the camera behind the net. An absolutely brilliant goal. Bullseye, bang, no limitations. He just went for a fantastic finish. And, it's great to see, because he wasn't limiting himself to anything there. Obviously, Peter Keane's given him a bit of a, do what you want kind of role. And by God, he's making Peter Keane proud of himself. It was a fantastic finish by David. And on he goes, and he's bigger fish to fry this year.
Yeah, I mean, like, and coming up next, obviously Cork. I mean, they dispatched Limerick 116 to 11 points. I suppose similar in some ways. Like, it wasn't brilliant from Cork the first half, to be honest. I think Pat Spillane sounded like he was pulling his hair out in the commentary, and I kind of don't blame him, because it was a hard watch, to be honest, in the first half in particular. Like, I think only one forward hit a point from play in the first half. And like, to be honest with you, I think although Cork came through this quite comfortably in the end, winning it by 8 points, I think Limerick had a massive chance here in the first half, because they hit the first point of the game, and there was opportunities there for them. There was goal chances, a few shots dropped wide from the likes of Hugh Burke and Danny Neville. But yeah, I suppose for Cork in the end, comfortable, and they march on now to the Kingdom in a few weeks' time.
On the go, and again, probably similar enough to the Kerry game, as Pat Spillane was saying, pulling his hair out. It just wasn't a great game of football, unfortunately. And I suppose where does this Cork project to end and start? So like obviously that kind of good preparation, with Limerick, but Limerick, I think a lot of people were nearly saying last week they could a bit of an upset in the cards. Obviously didn't come into fruition, but Cork, a very, very up and down county. Like as I said, as the boys have said in my podcast, they're very Jekyll and Hyde. You don't know what you're going to get with them. They'll beat Limerick by 8 points, and Kerry could pump them in the next game. They could go against any team, which is God knows what'll happen. So the Cork project, I'm not too sure. Obviously, the game against Kerry's tipped to maybe get their hands in the All Ireland this year. So Kerry could be another day in the office for them and get another win, but you just don't know with this much championship. But look, on Cork go. Good to see Brian Hurley back fit. He's out for a long time. It's great to see him shooting lights out again, and on the go. And I suppose that's another year gone for Limerick.
Yeah, Brian Hurley is essential, like, for that Cork team. I mean, when he came off the bench in the Westmeath game, made a massive difference. Mark Collins as well, I think, is another player they need to get up to full speed, and Luke Connolly as well. And and like what we were saying with Cork, like, they definitely are a mixed bag, like, because to be fair to them, like, two of their best performances in recent years anyway that I can remember was against Kerry. Like, Kerry in the final, in the Munster final last year, and obviously in 2019 they were actually probably better that day. They were more attacking anyways on that day, but Kerry pipped them by a point. So, like, in a strange way, although Kerry will be massive favourites, like, Cork, they're the type of team that just seem to raise their game against Kerry and sometimes get under their skin. So, I mean, it's going to be an intriguing watch when that game comes around.
Yeah, like look, it definitely will. It definitely will. But I just think if Kerry have any intentions of going far this year, they really should be beating Cork by a nice wee margin. Like I think last year, obviously big slip up for Kerry, but Kerry looked driven this year. Like David Clifford just looks like a man he just looks so driven and just so pushed on this year. And I think last year it just seemed like such a F up for them, and on Kerry go. But I think Cork will be absolutely, they will go out of their skin to cause an upset against the Kingdom. But I just think Kerry just looked like a different animal this year. Peter Keane just has them so focused and driven. David Clifford, for a young fella, he's leading the line. He's looking after them. He's the captain already. So it's fantastic to see his brother Paulie flying. Sean O'Shea, as you were saying, kicking 9 points the weekend. Phenomenal stuff. So look, it will be a good battle. But I really do think if Kerry are worth their salt, if there's all this talk about them potentially stopping the Dubs, they should really be winning that Munster final with 7 or 8 points.
Absolutely, yeah. Like, and anyone who's watching live, feel free to get your comments in, and we'll put them out. We'll put them on the screen, and obviously have a discussion. But yeah, like what you're saying, like in particular with Cork, I think, I mean, they're a hard one to kind of judge, like whether they're actually improving or whether they're not, because they beat Kerry last year, and you think, all right, they've taken this massive step forward, and then obviously they go and get beaten by Tipperary, and it's a massive step back. And like that's kind of been the scenario with Cork kind of down the years, like even in the league as well at different times, like brilliant, very, impressive against Clare and impressive against Westmeath, but you just don't know what they're going to deliver, because against Kerry, like what you said, I mean, if those Kerry forwards turn up, I mean, you could be talking about a 15 to 20 point win, but at the same time, Cork could easily pull off a scalp just like they done last year.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I think the way this year is shaping up, it would be one of the biggest upsets nearly of all time, because I think, as I keep saying, Kerry just look completely well-oiled this year. They're looking really good. But as you say, it could be a 15-point victory for Kerry, or it could be a 1 or 2 point victory for Cork. Football's a funny game. There can be slips and turns. There can be bloody last-minute equalisers, last-minute goals. So, look, it will be an intriguing battle. But, as I keep saying, if Kerry are really to show what they're about this year, Peter Keane, there's huge pressure on him. There's huge pressure on the likes of Cliffords, the O'Sheas to deliver this year. So Kerry really need to be looking at that game and thinking, right, lads, if we really need to push on this year, I know they're the arch enemy. I know it's a huge rivalry. But at the end of the day, Kerry have bigger fish to fry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like they'll definitely march on anyway towards that Munster Championship game. Mayo obviously against Leitrim. I mean, 520 to 11 points, 24 points. I mean, look, listen. I mean, there's no real. I don't know what to really say, to be honest, at this stage. Like, is there a point even talking about the game?
Look, Aaron. It's just absolutely embarrassing. The biggest mismatch of the century. I know the Hammered Slike won the first round, but that game Sunday was just disgraceful for all accounts. A Cavan man, Terry Hyland, along the sideline, just standing there like he just seen a ghost. Just horrendous stuff. Where there's either, like, it doesn't benefit Mayo, it does not benefit Leitrim. Just the GA should be embarrassed. They should just be embarrassed. There needs to be something badly changed. Between Desi Dolan commentating in that game and the performance Leitrim showed in, I don't know what was worse. Like, Jesus, it was just horrendous stuff, absolutely horrendous. And like Mayo were just laughing. I know Aidan O'Shea kicked 1 point, but like he didn't even need to put in a performance there yesterday. It was just horrendous. I just keep saying it. Should we look at the ladies' approach to this situation? Should there be a senior, intermediate, and a junior championship just to get something sorted? Leitrim, I'm hearing they're not even getting 15 at training these days. So it's absolutely embarrassing from all accounts. Leitrim's going to be scratching their heads. Terry Hyland will probably walk this week. It's just, where do you go? It's so disheartening, because like I've no doubt the Leitrim lads are working their arses off all year, and that's how they finish up for another year. They'll not see a kick of a ball now till next January or February if we're lucky, whatever way this COVID situation goes. It's just horrendous stuff. And like, I think yeah, even on the commentary, like like the likes of Desi Dolan, like Desi was saying, "Oh yeah, just not one of Leitrim's better days," and it's a great point for Leitrim. Just just absolute nonsense, like, and just going on and like probably just trying to save his job at the end of the day by trying to give Leitrim a bit of praise. It was just horrendous stuff, absolutely horrendous. And the GA, it badly needs a structure. The book needs to be ripped up and just completely. A massive plan needs to be put in place, because the poor Leitrim lads, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what your thoughts on it are, Aaron, but it's just horrendous.
Yeah, no, like I agree with you definitely. Even with the commentary, like one thing that kind of surprised me was even kind of when they were doing their pre-match analysis, and even when like Desi and I think was Marty Morrissey, I think in commentary, were like kind of in the first kind of 5 to 10 minutes, it was almost like they were trying to sell us that this game was going to be competitive, that this was going to be an interesting game. They were doing their pre-match analysis and all the rest, and kind of saying, oh well, maybe if Leitrim do this or maybe they do that. I mean, like when they had that debate at half time, I was kind of thinking, like, are we really surprised? Like, I mean, Mayo beat Sligo by 20 points. Sligo beat Leitrim. Like, Mayo are probably in top 3, top 4 teams in the country. Yeah. With all due respect, Leitrim are probably the worst team in the country right now, anyways. And they've also lost a lot of players. Like Ryan O'Rourke doesn't seem to be part of the squad anymore. So it is just baffling as well, like the way that it all seems to be. Like RTE and these other TV broadcasters, like they're so happy to point the finger at other people, but yeah, like they're, like, you know what I mean? They're kind of buying along with it until it's almost too late, and then they're like, then they change their minds. It's a bit weird.
Absolutely crazy. And I suppose the saddest thing about the whole thing is Mayo and Leitrim, that was on a national broadcaster for everyone to see. Everyone was obviously going to be watching the Euros. Everyone's going to be watching the Donegal game after that. And everyone's seeing Leitrim getting absolutely hockeyed out the gate. I know there's that bit of affiliation towards Mayo with RTE. RTE just love singing Mayo's praises and having them on week in, week out. It just wasn't fair in Leitrim. It done them no good. And then it's just back to the drawing board for next year. And God knows what next year will even bring for them. Like, if they're struggling for numbers of training, if it's this and it's that, it's just, I think Gary Reynolds was saying to me, it's just an absolute embarrassment. They don't know where to really go from there. He was another fella that was dropped in recent years. Like, you don't drop your best players. Emlyn Mulligan was dropped as well. Like, it's Cavan man Terry Hyland that's in there at the minute. Terry's a stern boy. He doesn't take any messing. He doesn't seem to like these fancy dance sort of players or these lads. But at the end of the day, Emlyn Mulligan is the best footballer Leitrim have ever produced. And what does Terry go and do? He drops him because he doesn't like his attitude or something. And same with Gary Reynolds. Them boys live and breathe Leitrim football. Like, I had Emlyn Mulligan on there for a podcast a couple of months ago, and he had Leitrim football's constantly on his mind. He's a driven book. He'd be committed to the cause. And what does Terry go do? Bye. I don't like the way you go on. Like, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. Gary Reynolds, I'm looking forward to chatting to him this week, because no doubt he'll have a lot to say about it this week in the podcast. And it's just, it's very poor. And like, the RTE boys, like, the Marty trying to praise the Leitrim performance and, they never give up, they never done this, or like, a fair play to them for keeping on going. You don't do me a favor. It's just awful stuff.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. Like, I mean, it's a hard one to watch as well. Like, and I think as well, like, because obviously, like, Joanne Canwell was obviously having the conversation with the lads at half time, and she was saying, like, she's afraid, or not that she's afraid, but a lot of these counties, like when the tier 2 discussion is coming up, a lot of these counties are probably afraid that they're going to get left in the dark. And that's where I think these TV companies and even, myself and even yourself as well, like as people who run their own kind of GA podcasts or whatever, is to promote these lesser counties, like give them the time. Like, let's, like, even with Joe McDonough, some of the hurling games there at the weekend, like there was some cracking games on there, some cracking drama. Like, I mean, it would have made so much more sense to have one of them games on rather than a Mayo going up against a Leitrim. Like, I know obviously there's a vast majority of Mayo fans, all across the world, and they want to watch their county and they want to see analysis. That's obviously why they show a lot of the Dublin games and a lot of the Kerry games as well. But I think for the rest of the country, and I think even for people in general, like, we want to see competitive games. And like, I don't know, like, I think that the responsibility needs to be not just the GA, but I think it needs to be split all across the board.
Yeah, but like I was saying this to you a couple of minutes ago, Aaron, like, why can't we actually adopt the ladies' approach? Like, well, okay, let's just put this into practice, right? Let's just say in the junior football championship. You have the likes of, say, okay, even look, like, I'll use Division 4 as a template. Let's say Leitrim, Wicklow, ourselves, who else? Tipperary, Waterford, London in a junior championship or something lines of that. Intermediate, you have the likes of, I don't know, Division 2 teams, Roscommon, Galway to a lesser extent. Who else is there? Cork, Meath, Division 1 or senior. Dublin, Kerry, Mayo, them sort of teams. So why can't that be done? Like, I know maybe lesser teams and stuff, but like adopt it and see how we get on, because like, it's like, as you said rightly, Mayo played Sligo, 20 points. Mayo played Leitrim yesterday, 20 plus points. A waste of time. Benefits nobody. Like, it's just, we're going to probably see another game or two like that. As the boys were saying, like, thank God for that Derry Donegal game, because it probably saved, which was probably another wretched weekend of football. Thank God for that game. Trial and error, try all these things, because the GAA, they don't really like changing their methods. They probably don't listen to me or you, unfortunately, as much as we give out about it. But it's just like, even seeing Joe Brawley just giving out about the whole thing yesterday. Like, I know he obviously has his grievance with RTE at the minute, but he's not far wrong. Like, it was very bad stuff, and you just don't really know where you go from there. And like, it's just the fact that every Tom, Dick, and Harry was probably either on a bar stool, sitting at home, looking at that Leitrim performance. And I could see a lot of Leitrim boys probably packing their bags after that, because even it's very bad vibes for them, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just such an interesting one as well, because like, even with Mayo in particular, like, obviously they've been very, dominant over the past couple of years, like this year in particular in the Connacht Championship, and like last year they were very dominant, and you're kind of looking at it, and Leitrim and Sligo, like, especially two Division 4 teams, like, it makes so much more sense for those two counties to play each other. And I think as well, when you look at the format in hurling, like, you have 11 teams in there at the start of the year in the championship, and about 6 or 7 of them probably have a real chance in their opinion at winning All Ireland. Like, football, the Gaelic Football Championship is probably only going to start getting really competitive now, and we're down to 12 teams. So like, I think they need to kind of do something similar, because although like the hurling isn't senior, intermediate, junior, it kind of is in many ways, the way that John McDonough is intermediate, Christy Ring is junior, and then obviously you have your lower levels underneath. So I don't see why there's any reason why they can't do that. And look, listen, you can keep the provincial championships, maybe run them at the start of the year, run them as like pre-season tournaments or whatever, like get rid of your McKenna Cups and your McGrath Cups and all this. But like, surely they do need to do something like that. Like, Cora Staunton obviously said it. I had Daniel St. Ledger on my podcast, who made a very good point, former Carlow footballer, about that as well. So like, I think, and it is mad because the GAA, they changed the game so much. They changed the rules, and they changed the, different, bring in the advanced mark and the kick out mark, and all the advantage rule and all this. But in terms of the actual problems, like, they're creating problems when there aren't problems, and when there are problems, there are no solutions. It's all just a bit of a mess. We could go on about it, I suppose.
Oh no, yeah, 100%. Like, it's probably for another day's chat, but no, it's just very disheartening. Like, and like, when you see a game like that yesterday, it's very bad it's just disheartening, because no GAA fan wants to be watching that. Nobody just wants to be like sitting at home watching that. It was just really, really bad. What says Leitrim's in a junior championship playing the likes of, even like, we could probably show, even if we tried it next year, maybe ourselves, but like, say the likes of maybe Sligo or Wicklow or some of them teams, or Carlow, just to see a more competitive game. Because like, if you had something like that to aim for, like, I know with the championship draw there a couple of years ago, I think Emma Mulligan was still in the Leitrim panel, and I think he was doing the draw, and like, Leitrim were pulled out against Roscommon for the championship, and Emma Mulligan, honestly today, says it's absolutely disheartening, and they don't really know where we go from there. And that was the night of the championship draw, because they knew they were going to get bet. If Leitrim had the likes of if they're in like a junior championship and they're like drawn against the likes of a Wicklow or a Carlow or some of them teams, Waterford, that's something to work towards, because they know they have a chance of actually potentially beating them and furthering themselves in going to training, enjoying training, and working towards something. Like, when Mayo, like, say the week leading up to this, like, Terry Hyland was just been thinking, like I see, like, I know Terry well. He's standing along the line there, just like, we're 10 minutes in, there were 7 points down. He looked a bit bad because he knew what was coming, and look what happened. Like, it's just, it's there to be seen by the GAA. and they're just happy to keep going with it. The definition of insanity, Aaron, continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results. The GAA is a disaster at the minute. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, no, like it definitely. There definitely does need to be something done now, and I know there was supposed to be something in Congress this year or something like that. Anyways, I mean, like I remember even this discussion happening after Dublin. I think Dublin played Westmeath, and I think it was a Leinster semi-final. It might have even been a Leinster final and beat them by like 30 points or something like that. And I remember there was a big discussion that was back in 2017, and I know Cavan and Tip obviously winning provincial championships last year probably kind of delayed, maybe it kind of put things on the back burner, but I don't know, like hopefully anyways, an intermediate or something like that, because it like it would be the equivalent of like Limerick going up against a Monaghan or something like that in hurling at this rate. Like if they were to run the hurling championship in the same way the football championship would be run, it would be the same results. Do you know what I mean? Like there'd be all these one-sided victories and whatnot. So look, listen, I suppose it's definitely something for them to fix, and definitely something for them to look at.
But that's what I'm saying, Aaron. Like, if you the problem with the GAA is at the minute. Let's God forbid, but let's just say a fight, like the room you're in there now goes up in flames, and you need to put it out with water. The problem is there, right in front of the GAA at the minute. And what are they doing? As Kevin McBrearty always says, the boys sipping tea and eating egg and onion bloody sandwiches in the bloody corporate boxes. But like the problem is there. Like, let's say like your computer turns off or it just stops working. Let's get it fixed. It's right in front of us, and they're not doing anything.
Yeah. It's a hard one to know. Like I know Larry McCarthy, obviously he's come in with a lot of praise and whatnot. And I don't think any of these issues are really his. Like he wasn't here when all these issues were created. But you would wonder like where, like who are making the decisions, like what's going on. Like even if they had something where there was some sort of like committee of maybe it was former players or whatever that communicate with the GAA, and they were like, like something like that, because there's plenty of ex-players that would do it.
What's the GPA at? Like the GPA, what are they doing? Like you've seen Paul Flynn step down from the role there, and I think Tom Parsons is the new man on board. Should he have more of a voice? Should he be speaking up for like I know he's a Mayo man and he wants them seeing winning all Irelands and stuff, but he has to be speaking for lesser counties now, because like I know Paul Flynn, like to be honest with you, I'm not sure what Paul Flynn done in his last couple of years. It just seems to be jobs to the boys that gig there at the minute, like, because I don't know what's actually been done. Parsons has to be looking at this. Like if he is the man to look after the players, Gaelic players' welfare, that's what that's all about. Leitrim, Sligo, gone for another year, and that's it. Hammered out the gate in the championship. Like, I don't know where it's frustrating,
Yeah, it is frustrating. Like it probably is. I to be honest, I don't really know much about the Gaelic Players Association either, and what they do and what they don't do. But I don't know if the issue is as big as them. I feel like it probably goes over their heads a bit. But yeah, like that, it is something that they do need to fix and whatnot. But sure, look, listen, I suppose we move into the final 12 anyway, and hopefully from here anyway, we won't have any more of these discussions. I mean, look, listen, Dublin could easily go out and put in a 20-point win over Meath. Westmeath could probably turn over Kildare, and then Dublin will, absolutely annihilate Westmeath. But hopefully, let's live in hope anyway that we have somewhat of competitive. I mean, like Munster, Connacht, the 2 games in Ulster, at least those 4 games, whether they're good games or not, are going to be somewhat competitive.
Well, yeah, like fingers crossed, and you're just probably holding out hope. But it's just keeping supporters on a level playing field for a long term. Like that's probably a short term fix for us now. 2022, 2023, 2024, the years ahead. GAA as a product for the long term is what we need to focus on. As you say, okay, the next couple of weeks will be exciting games because the competitive teams are finally coming up against each other now. But the likes of Wexford, all them years are done. Like the likes of, say, like last weekend, I know Dublin only won by a couple of points, but still Wexford were best. It was only an okay performance. So that's another year done for them. It's just the fact. Look, Aaron, it's just the amount of time that goes into GAA intercounty is crazy. The amount of training that to do, the amount of preparation that to do, the players' lives are on hold, and just that's it for another year. If you get bet by 20 or 30 points, it's just the preparation that goes into it. Like it's like preparing all year to fail. It's
yeah. Yeah, yeah. When you put it that way, like it kind of is like it is mad. Like and yeah. Like even when you like you do feel sorry for the like and like fair play to Wexford obviously last week who gave Dublin like a good rattle. Like and although it was Dublin were always going to win the game like realistically, but Wexford to be fair to them were somewhat competitive. They kept it relatively tight. They brought it like into a bit of a dogfight. But I think in general like this championship has been evidence. Like there in the making that because I think last year with the fact that it was a winter championship as well, conditions were a lot tougher, games were a lot closer. I think it was harder to score. It was more of a work. I think defensive football was more easier, kind of more workable back then. Whereas now we're seeing this summer style football, attacking football, and what we're seeing is that the good teams are really good at it, and unfortunately for a lot of the weaker teams, the defense just isn't up to the standard, and we're seeing these games, these mismatches happening all over the place because they even did show on the graphic on RTE like the average margin's been 12 13 points I think, like, which is crazy. Like
it's crazy, like you have the likes of the big hitters, Joe Brawley and the Gooch and the boys giving out about the setup at the minute, but like it's just not being listened to. It's just not being listened to, and there's no even back door this year, so there's literally no chance for like the lower team. So it's literally kick up the arse to all extent. So the best way to nearly describe it, like say you're in college or I don't know, you're at school or something, you're preparing, you're studying all year, and it's just like say if Wexford were studying all year and to get Dublin in the championship, it's like studying for an exam. It's like doing like another subject that you weren't studying, like say economics. Oh Jesus, I have an exam in that now, but I don't have a chance of passing. So it's just absolute madness what's going on at the minute. And yesterday, last weekend, week before, has to be enough proof in the pudding that the thing's not working at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, listen, we'll wrap this up here anyway. Cheers, John, for coming on, and cheers anyone who tuned in. Anyways, John, I'll leave your podcast obviously down below for anyone who wants to go ahead and check it out. And for anyone who tuned in, I appreciate it. And I'll see you later.
Cheers, Aaron. Thank you.